He may not always say it out loud, but a man remembers more than you think, especially the things that hurt him. While others are quick to forget or move on, he often stores those memories in silence, not because he's weak, but because he's built that way, taught to endure, not express. Every time he was let down, betrayed, ignored, or misunderstood, he didn't forget. He carried it with him, and it shaped how he sees the world, how he trusts people, and how he moves forward. That silence, you see, it's not peace, it's not indifference. It's the sound of him replaying moments no one else even remembers. He recalls the night he sat alone, needing someone to ask if he was okay, but no one did. He remembers when his efforts were taken for granted, when his sacrifices were invisible. He didn't complain, not because it didn't matter, but because somewhere along the way, he learned that talking about his pain would either be mocked, misunderstood, or dismissed. So, he learned to carry it alone, but make no mistake. He remembers, there's a strange strength in that kind of silence. It doesn't mean he's emotionally disconnected. It means he's internalized everything, every word said to him in anger. Every moment he was overlooked. Every time he was made to feel like he wasn't enough. You may think he's forgotten those moments, but they're etched into his memory like scars under the skin. Scars that don't show, but still ache when touched, and it's not just the big betrayals. Even the little things stay with him. The way someone laughed at his dreams, the moment someone rolled their eyes when he opened up, or the time he gave his all and still wasn't chosen. These aren't just memories to him, they're turning points, markers in his journey that changed how he sees people, how much of himself he gives, and who he allows close. He remembers because that's his way of protecting himself from being hurt the same way twice. It's easy to underestimate a quiet man. People think if he's not reacting, he's unaffected. But that's the biggest mistake you can make. He's reacting on the inside. Processing, adjusting, learning who's real and who's temporary. And while he might not call you out, unfriend you, or make a scene, he quietly moves you to a different place in his life. He remembers how you treated him, and it shapes his path forward. Sometimes those memories fuel him. The pain becomes his motivation. He'll wake up early, push harder, focus deeper, not to prove anyone wrong, but to prove to himself that he can become something greater than what he was made to feel. That kind of strength doesn't come from comfort. It's born in the dark moments, the ones no one sees, the ones no one asks about. He holds onto them, not to dwell, but to rise. And he also remembers the good. The rare moments when someone truly saw him, when someone listened without judgment, believed in him when no one else did, or offered kindness without expecting something in return. Those moments are treasures to him. He may never bring them up again, but they stay with him just as deeply as the pain. Because when a man is used to carrying everything alone, a moment of true connection is unforgettable. That's why it matters how you speak to him, how you treat him, what you say when he's not at his best. Because he remembers, maybe not immediately, maybe not with confrontation, but over time, it all adds up. And when he changes, when he gets quieter, more distant, more focused, it's not sudden. It's built on moments you never realized meant so much. You see, the world often teaches men to bury their emotions, to walk through pain without flinching. But burying is not the same as forgetting. And just because he smiles, works hard, and keeps moving doesn't mean he's healed. Sometimes he's just mastered the art of carrying pain with grace. You'll look at him and see calm, but underneath that calm is a mind full of memories. Some that broke him, some that built him. So never assume he doesn't remember. He might never say a word about it, but when he gets stronger, wiser, colder, or more selective, it's because he does. He might not show it, and he might never speak of it, but a man never forgets kindness, especially when he needed it most. In a world where he's expected to stay strong, keep moving, and never ask for help, those moments of genuine care become unforgettable. When someone shows up not because they have to, but because they choose to, that stays with him. Kindness, no matter how small, leaves a lasting imprint on his heart. You may think it was a passing gesture, a simple act, but to him, it could be the very thing that helped him hold on when everything inside was falling apart. There are times when life weighs heavily on him, when his strength feels depleted, when the pressure to keep going suffocates him. And yet, even in that darkness, it's often a single voice, a single moment of warmth that brings light. Maybe someone offered him understanding when he expected judgment. Maybe someone looked him in the eyes and truly saw his struggle. He may not say much in response, but that moment doesn't disappear. It stays, quietly pulsing in the back of his mind like a heartbeat, a reminder that not everyone is blind to his pain. He remembers the day someone asked how he was doing, and actually waited to hear the answer, not out of politeness, but with real concern. He remembers when someone helped without making him feel weak, when someone gave without keeping score. It's not the grand gestures that stick with him, it's the quiet compassion, the sincere word when he was on the verge of breaking, the warm meal when he hadn't eaten, the kind check-in when the world was cold. Those things never fade because they met him at a time when he had nothing to give back. That kind of kindness doesn't just touch him, it changes him. It softens the parts of him that were becoming hard. It gives him hope when he was starting to believe no one cared. And even if he doesn't express it right away, it builds loyalty in him. Deep, quiet loyalty. The kind that doesn't waver, doesn't forget, and doesn't take that memory for granted. He might never say, "I remember what you did," but he'll carry it like a shield against the world's cruelty. Because when someone chooses love over judgment, support over silence, it becomes part of him. People often overlook this. They underestimate how deeply kindness can root itself in a man's memory, because he's taught to focus on results, not emotions. He's taught that emotions are distractions, that vulnerability is weakness. But when someone reaches through that wall and shows him he's worth kindness, it creates a crack in the armor, and that's where light gets in. Not everyone will see the effect. Not everyone will know what that moment meant to him. But he does. He always does. Sometimes it's just one sentence that changes everything. One simple reminder that he matters, that he's seen, that he doesn't have to carry it all alone. You may have forgotten what you said, but he hasn't. He stores it in the same place he keeps his pain, but this time, it heals instead of hurts. And later, when life tests him again, when loneliness comes knocking, he'll reach back into that memory. He'll find strength in that moment, because real kindness doesn't expire. It echoes. That's why it's so important to treat people with compassion, especially when they don't ask for it. Especially when they seem strong, because often the strongest men are the ones silently fighting the hardest battles. They don't beg for love, they don't demand support, but when someone offers it anyway, without condition, it leaves a permanent mark. It tells him, you are not invisible, you are not forgotten, and that message becomes a lifeline. There's a difference between politeness and true kindness. He sees that. He knows who gave to him out of duty and who gave out of love. He knows who saw his struggle and stayed silent, and who stepped in without needing a reason. And once he knows that, it changes how he sees those people forever. The ones who were kind when he had nothing to offer. They become rare gems in his life. And even if distance grows, even if time moves on, he never forgets them. So if you've ever been kind to a man when he was low, know this, he remembers. Even if he didn't say thank you the way you expected, even if he didn't show it right away, That moment lives inside him. It helps him believe again. It reminds him that not everyone walks away. And sometimes it's that memory, the memory of your kindness, that gives him the courage to keep going. There's a common mistake people make when dealing with a man who stays quiet after being hurt. They assume he's forgotten. That because he didn't react, because he didn't speak up, because he didn't fight back in the moment, it meant the pain didn't register. But the truth is far from that. He remembers the disrespect. He remembers the moments he was belittled, dismissed, underestimated. And though he may have stayed silent, that silence was never about weakness. It was about control. He doesn't forget. He stores it, and over time, it turns into something powerful, fuel. A man might not respond with immediate emotion when you cut him down, but he absorbs every word. When you speak to him with contempt, when you laugh at his struggle, when you roll your eyes at his dreams, those moments don't fade. They stick, they find a home deep within him, and they harden. He doesn't lash out. He doesn't beg for respect. Instead, he shifts inward. He begins to build. He begins to sharpen. Every disrespect becomes another weight he lifts in silence, another brick in the foundation of something greater. He remembers the times he gave his all, only to be told it wasn't enough. He remembers putting his heart into something, only to be met with mockery or silence. He remembers the people who said he would never make it, the ones who treated him as less. And while those people might forget what they said or did, he never does. Not because he wants revenge, but because it shaped him. It taught him who he was dealing with. It taught him how the world works. And most importantly, it gave him a reason to rise. Disrespect doesn't destroy him, it wakes him up. It opens his eyes, it shifts his priorities. What once needed validation now becomes personal. He no longer seeks applause, because he's fueled by something deeper. The memory of how he was once made to feel invisible. That becomes his motivation, to prove to himself, not to anyone else, that he's more than what they saw. That their opinion was never a mirror, only a reflection of their own ignorance. He doesn't move with anger, he moves with purpose. Every early morning, every late night, every painful step forward is powered by those moments people thought he forgot. And the more they doubted him, the harder he works. He might never confront them. He might never speak on it. But one day, when he walks into a room with confidence, with power, with respect, he'll carry all of that history with him. Not on his face, not in his words, but in his presence. The thing people forget is that a man doesn't need to prove them wrong to get even. He just needs to become the version of himself they never believed he could be. He needs to rise, not for them, but because he remembers what it felt like to be counted out. And nothing pushes a man more than the sting of being dismissed. He doesn't forget the jokes, the cold shoulders, the fake smiles. He just files them away and lets them drive him when things get hard. Even the people closest to him sometimes forget that he remembers. That moment when they embarrassed him in front of others, thinking it was harmless. That time they didn't defend him when he needed it most. That day, they made him feel small in the middle of his effort to grow. It may seem small to them, but it wasn't to him. It became part of his story, and while he may never speak on it, it plays in the background of his mind like a silent vow. I won't stay here. I will not be defined by this. And so he changes. Slowly, quietly, he becomes more disciplined, more focused, more selective with who he gives his time to. He no longer argues. He no longer tries to be understood by those who chose not to understand him when he was at his most open. He's not interested in proving anything to people who saw his worth and still chose to ignore it. Instead, he grows, and one day, they'll see the man he's become, and they'll wonder how they missed it, how they didn't recognize the fire they were fueling every time they looked down on him. Because the truth is, disrespect doesn't just hurt. It transforms, it breaks illusions, it separates real from fake. It teaches him who he is when no one's clapping. And if he chooses to use that pain as fuel, there's no limit to what he can become. That's the quiet power of a man who remembers. A man might not say it, but he's always observing, especially in his lowest moments. When he's down, when things aren't going well. When he's stripped of success, of status, of strength, he watches. He watches who disappears and who stays, who looks the other way and who still sees him. When he has nothing to offer, no power, no advantage, that's when he learns everything he needs to know about the people around him. It's easy to clap for someone when they're winning. It's easy to show up when the lights are on and the applause is loud. But when everything falls silent, when all the external validation is gone, he sees clearly. That's when loyalty is exposed. That's when truth is revealed. He remembers who stayed when he had nothing, who checked on him when he wasn't okay, who treated him with respect when he had no titles, no recognition, no spotlight. And it's not something he forgets over time, it becomes foundational. Because in those moments of lack, the world becomes incredibly honest. People stop pretending, masks fall off. And the ones who only clapped when he was winning are nowhere to be found when he's crawling. That kind of clarity doesn't break him, it guides him. In the quiet seasons of life, when he's rebuilding, healing, or simply trying to find his way again, he learns what applause really means. He stops craving the noise and starts listening for the silence, who calls when there's no benefit, encourages when Enea is there's a-chiving, a level of celebration, who respects him when he's not useful, learns to tses. And when he finds the answers, his relationships change, not out of bitterness, but out of understanding. He learns to draw boundaries, to invest differently, to trust selectively. What he remembers most isn't the support during the wins, but the presence during the losses. The real ones don't care about what he has, they care about who he is. They see his heart, not his wallet. They respect his soul, not his success, and those people become everything to him. Quietly, he places them in a sacred part of his life. Because while others were waiting to celebrate his victories, these few stood by him in defeat. He notices when someone sees him struggling and steps in without needing to be asked. He feels it when someone treats him with dignity, when he's at his most vulnerable. That kind of loyalty isn't loud. It's not posted online. It doesn't come with fanfare. It's real and it runs deep. And when the tides turn, when he finally gets back up, when he rebuilds and regains his strength, those people are the ones he brings with him, not out of obligation, but out of deep, unshakable respect, because he never forgot how they made him feel when he was at rock bottom. On the other hand, he also remembers the silence, the ones who looked the other way, the ones who only saw value in him when he was doing well, the ones who vanished when he needed understanding, patience, or support. He doesn't chase them, doesn't call them out, doesn't beg them to stay. He just makes a mental note, and that note becomes a boundary. He no longer opens his heart to them. He no longer seeks their approval, because he's seen their truth. This is the quiet test life gives every man who stands with you when the spotlight turns off. And once that test is passed, he can never go back to the way things were. His perspective shifts. He stops chasing love that's conditional. He stops tolerating connections that disappear during storms, and in that space he finds freedom. He may lose a few people, but he gains something much more valuable: clarity. When he rises again, and he will rise, it won't be with noise, it'll be with wisdom. It'll be with awareness of who truly deserves a seat at his table, not because of what they did when he succeeded, but because of how they made him feel when he failed. Because the truth is, loyalty in silence is louder than praise in public, so he watches, not to judge, not to resent, but to understand. And what he learns in his lowest seasons becomes the compass he follows for the rest of his life. A man doesn't always speak about what matters most to him. He might sit across from you, smiling, laughing, holding conversations about everyday things, but behind his eyes, he's carrying the weight of moments he can't forget, especially the words that hit him at his core, words spoken by people he trusted, words that were thrown carelessly in anger or frustration, but pierced deeper than anyone could imagine. People often think men are immune to words, that because they don't cry, because they keep moving, the words didn't leave a mark. But they do, he just learns to carry the damage silently. What people fail to realize is that a man can still remember something that was said to him years ago, word for word. The insult disguised as a joke, the criticism that wasn't meant to build but to break, the comparison that made him feel like he wasn't enough. He may not react in the moment, but those words echo in his mind, especially at night, when everything is quiet. That's when the voice inside him begins to repeat the things he never got closure on, the things no one apologized for, the things he never talked about, and those words begin to shape how he sees himself. They become part of his internal dialogue. Every time he doubts himself, it's not just his fear. It's also the memory of what someone once told him. Maybe they said he'd never be anything. Maybe they told him he wasn't smart enough, man enough, worthy enough. Those words play on repeat in his mind whenever he steps towards something bigger than himself. That's the hidden weight he carries, not just the fear of failure, but the fear of proving those voices right. Even when he becomes successful, those words don't vanish. They linger, hiding beneath the surface. He might accomplish more than anyone thought possible, but a part of him still hears the voice that once told him he couldn't. And sometimes, despite all his achievements, he still feels like that little boy who was told he wasn't good enough. That's the invisible struggle many never see, the mental battle of overcoming not just reality, but memory. Because while the world may have moved on, his mind hasn't. It's still trying to rewrite the script someone else handed him. But here's the quiet power in all of it. He uses it. He turns the pain into purpose. He lets those words fuel him, not define him. Every early morning he grinds. Every time he pushes himself harder. Every time he refuses to quit. It's not just ambition. It's him choosing to silence those voices. It's him choosing to become something no one saw in him. That kind of fire doesn't come from comfort. It comes from pain, and while it may hurt, it also builds strength. The kind of strength that doesn't need to be shouted. It's shown in how he never quits. Still, it doesn't change the fact that words stay with him. Even the words that were meant with good intentions but delivered in the wrong tone or said at the wrong time or received through the filter of his pain, they all stay. He's not made of stone. He hears everything, and sometimes it's the words left unsaid that weigh the most. The apology that never came, the validation he never received, the encouragement he always gave to others but never got in return. Those are the quiet wounds, and he covers them well, but he never forgets. On the other side, he also remembers the words that saved him. The words that lifted him when he was at his lowest. A single sentence of belief from someone he respected. A genuine "I'm proud of you," a heartfelt "I see how hard you're trying." Those words are engraved on his soul. He doesn't need them often, but when they come, they breathe life into him. He may not express it outwardly, but those words are the ones he replays when things get dark. They become anchors for him, Reminders that not every voice is meant to tear him down. Some are meant to build him back up. So be careful what you say to a man, especially when he's open, when he's vulnerable, when he's giving his best. Because he may not show you the damage, but he'll remember every word, and it will either become a wound or a weapon, a burden or a source of fuel. He may stay silent, he may even smile, but deep down the memory stays. And long after the moment has passed, he's still living with what was spoken. Because whether words hurt him or heal him, he remembers more than you realize.